who had just arrived, was only in the country about 4 days, stabbed him over 100 times, Nick. The whole project has gone wrong. No jail. No jail time. He supposedly had the mental health card was played. He was a schizophrenic. It used to be a country that had an economy. We're now an economy that has a country.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Nick Talks. This episode's returning an always amazing guest, good friend of mine, Derek Domino, all the way across from the Ivy Sea, the Emerald Isle. How you doing, Derek?
Hi, Nick. Great to be with you, as always, and with all of your viewers and listeners. Always a pleasure. I look forward to these little chats.
Me too, and so do our listeners. We get a lot of crossover when we do these videos. So many people in comments going, I follow both channels. I love Derek. And that's mostly from my wife.
Actually, Nick, I was at a festival there on Saturday in Castlebar, Era Festival, great celebration of Irish culture, and both modern and past. And a number of people were mentioning you because I was, you're chit chatting to the most amazing people, wonderful people were there. And I said, "Oh, I love you, I love watching Nick as well, and I watch you, and I love when the two of you get together." I said, Nick, salt of the earth, Nick. Of course, I gave you a good glowing report, Nick, glowing report.
And that's what's good about these chats and social media is everyday people can have normal conversations. You may agree with the conversations, you may not agree with the topics, it doesn't matter. But the fact we can have these conversations and people can listen to them is we need more of this. Doesn't mean we're right. It just means we want to get our opinions out there and we let other people judge if they agree with us or not.
Absolutely. And as I always say, and you do too, I mean, the comment section, I read through it and you read through yours, and it's some really, really sharp people and intelligent people and switched on people. And their comments sometimes they give so much, they add so much to the conversation. Like you and I can chit chat and have a conversation, tease something out, and then the comment section teases it out to a whole other level. And that's why people should always leave comments, because number one, we do read them and we appreciate them, but two, other people read them. So other commenters comment on people's comments, and then the conversation takes on a whole new level from there. So always comment.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, unfortunately, the beginning of this video is the only happy bit of this video because we're going to a very dark subject now that affects my country and your country. You would have seen over the last couple of days, the news in Ireland would have been about the stabbing on the train in England. 10 people stabbed, one of them still critically ill. How have the Irish people reacted to that? Because it's almost commonplace in Ireland now. Maybe not on the train, but stabbings in Ireland are just like London now.
It's we really are living in a new paradigm here in Ireland, and people are just, they're almost sadly becoming numb, which is a terrible, terrible thing to say or even think about, because stabbings over here were a rarity, extreme rarity. And most of the odd one that did happen was some domestic situation. But now it's every day. And just the other week, we had a horrific case of a Somalian person viciously stabbed, supposedly a juvenile, 17-year-old or whatever. Now, with regards to people from certain parts of the world, I think you and I both know very well that when they come in and say they're 17, yeah,
26.
26, 29, 34, they never check, as you know. They just kind of write it down and off you go. So this Somalian person stabbed another juvenile, 17-year-old Ukrainian boy, who had just arrived, was only in the country about 4 days, stabbed him over 100 times, Nick, in a state place, actually just an apartment in an ordinary apartment block, a subcontracted apartment by the state. Our children's age too, so they just kind of shunt these kids in wherever they can get. Anyway, he stabbed viciously this guy. I read the details and I couldn't even tell you the details on air. They're so gruesome, so gruesome, and people were outraged with that. And just on the back of that, there, a couple of days later, We had a case about a year or two ago. I covered it on a channel of a stabbing at Dublin Airport. I think the guy was Ugandan, maybe he was from the Congo, and he was just standing outside the airport main door. People were having smokes or whatever. Took out a knife and randomly started stabbing a German tourist who was standing beside him. Just randomly stabbed him 8 times. Got his sentence just the other day, a few days after the Somali guy did his thing. Suspended sentence.
Suspended sentence.
No jail. No jail time. He supposedly had the mental health card was played. He was a schizophrenic. You could write the script yourself, Nick. No, no jail time. Let him go. Let him go. And he took out a knife and stabbed a random person, a tourist. I mean, I don't think he'll be coming back to Ireland anytime soon. Like, thankfully, he didn't die. But you stabbing a lad 8 times, Nick. Dying or not dying is a flip of the coin there.
Yeah, so I take it the German guy has gone home, but I'm also presuming the Ugandan guy is not going to be deported.
No, there wasn't even not even a mention.
I can understand not jailing him if it's plain today, get out, then that I can accept, but not no jail and stay in the country because our taxpayers have got far too much money in Ireland and we need to get rid of it somewhere. And you're just the type of guy we'd like to spend our money on.
It's just, I mean, you think it can't get any crazier, and it just keeps getting crazier because, number one, why are we allowing these people in the first place? He's been here a while, never worked, doesn't have a job, never contributed anything, and he's got a range of very serious mental health issues. Now, how is that? Look, what's that got to do with us? Why are we picking? I mean, this guy's medication and whatever else he gets, treatments and therapies, must be costing the state a fortune.
Of course.
And who's paying for it?
Yeah, you are. Yeah, absolutely. Now, when we had this stabbing in on the train over the weekend in England, it came on the news, and I went on social media straight away to say, here's my prediction. 3 things. Black or brown man, he'll be an immigrant, or he'll be the child of an immigrant, and he'll be Muslim. Now, what do we know today? He's a black man. He was born in the UK, so the police say. So now we're trying to find out now his parents' status, and we'll never find out if he's a Muslim or not till it gets to court, or maybe after court, because they'll never release that. And people online criticize me. Here we go again, racist Nick, and that's fine. I get it all the time. But my answer to that was, this is the reason why I've stated this publicly, is maybe I'll be right, maybe I'll be wrong. But I'm confident I'll be right because of something called pattern recognition. When things happen over and over again, and you see the same pattern, we're very good as humans to see patterns. It's how we survive. And there's a pattern recognition here now in this country. Doesn't mean it's always been like that. 30, 40 years ago, the pattern recognition would have been white man, Irish accent, Republican. That would have been the pattern recognition for bombs going off in my country. But roll on 30, 40 years, the pattern has changed and we can see it. Black or brown person, immigrant, Muslim. Now, we'll see the rest of it that comes out over the next few days. What's the pattern recognition in your country for these horrendous crimes?
Well, again, like similar to what you've got going over there, any talk or mention about pattern recognition is, it's people on the mainstream media and the press and all the government ministers and politicians, they immediately wince. They physically shudder at even the thoughts of such a thing. How could anybody prejudge? And all this is bunk. It's nonsense, as you well know. Like, we know the same here as what your viewers would know over there. If I read in the paper that somebody's gone on a rampage with a knife, or somebody's after going at it, maybe was having an argument with somebody, and they just took out a knife, I know immediately it's not an Irish guy. It's not Paddy O'Reilly did that. It's not. And I'm always right, because it never is. I'm not saying it can't happen. Sorry, Paddy Riley, if you're watching, I'm not casting any aspersions. But I'm not saying it can't happen, but I know it isn't. It's always somebody with an African name, or it could be an Islamic name of some sort, or even an Albanian name of some sort. And that's the truth. Because that's when I look at all the cases, and there's plenty. If I was to list them all out, there mightn't be any Irish names on it. There might be one Irish name on it, maybe two, but there'd be hundreds of what you and I would consider to be not typically Irish names. So, as you rightly say, pattern recognition, that's just nature. Nature that's built in. It's an instinctive thing. When you're out hunting, you got to know which animals are likely to eat you and which ones will run away from you. You got to know stuff like that. And I know that I think was it the Met Police were actually forbidden from stopping and searching certain types of people and all this pattern recognition, which had been working quite well, as I understand it. They were catching a lot of guys that way. But they were forbidden from doing it because it's unkind. Well, we're in the same boat here, Nick. Any even mention of maybe we should probably look a bit more carefully, scrutinize a bit more closely certain people. Well, they won't do it. Can't do it. And not only can they not do it, they can't even talk about it. So we're very much at the same place that you are over there. Very much so.
Yeah, I mean, this is crazy. This puts us in more and more danger. Let's say the police were running an operation in the UK to find rapists. They shouldn't be stopping women to investigate them or find out what they're doing, because women don't rape other women really in the street. It's a male crime. I get that. So therefore, we need to be stopping men. If we're investigating something else, we know who the perpetrators are. We know the pattern recognition. We used to call this profiling. The FBI have got a profiling team, but now the word profiling means racist. Well, if we're going to tackle knife crime in London, we need to be stopping young black men, because it's young black men who are carrying knives, and it's young black men who are dying from stab wounds. So, we understand it, but we've got to such a stage now of equality that our police now are going, right, this week we've stopped 15 young black men. We need to stop more women, we need to stop more old people, and we need to stop more Chinese people so we can balance out these numbers. That isn't policing. That's some sort of Soviet Britain fiddling the numbers so it all looks like equality. It isn't decent policing.
No, it's craziness, Nick. We all know that. Every common sense person out there knows that the whole project has gone wrong. And it's sad in a way, because we live in an era now where we have digital, everything's digital, everything's no longer in a filing cabinet. It's all online, or it's all on a database somewhere, and it costs you nothing to store that. So we have never had such easy access to data, of compiled data. You don't have to have people in a back room going through physical pieces of paper. It's all there. They can extrapolate out to the nth degree, all these percentages and all these possible, data points of what particular type of person is more prone or more likely to commit a certain crime, the age profile, maybe the racial profile, their background profile. I mean, they have access at the push of a button to all of this information that previous generations didn't have access to in anything like the same way. And the crazy part is they're not using it.
That's because they're scared stiff of pressing that button, because they know what the answers will be. And if they get the answers, there's a record that they've got the answers, and they know they're not going to act upon those answers. Therefore, I'm never pressing that button.
Well, if you're afraid of the answer to an awkward question, then the easiest thing, as they always do, is to not ask the question. They know they're going to get an answer they don't want. So it's just easier to not ask the question in the first place. And, the Swedes I think, started this whole ball rolling, and look how it's worked out for them. They decided they weren't going to count any of these statistics to do with race and background and all that. And, well, Sweden is now the poster child for a dysfunctional country. How to ruin your own country, and then a picture of Sweden comes up. So until the adults get back in the room, Nick, we're stuck with this. until the adults get back in the room. Because there are people, and you would be well aware of this over there, and you've moved in these circles and spoken to these types of people. They're afraid, they're scared, they're worried about their position, their job. They don't want to get a bad headline in the press. So they're going to willfully ignore what we, the normal people, know to be true. That certain cultures are different. I mean, they're different in a very dangerous way. And really, the sensible thing, the common sense thing to do is shine a light on that, watch that a bit more closely, pay a bit more attention to that, and if necessary, come down hard on that. And that is an anathema. That way of thinking is an anathema to these people. And until the adults come back into the room and who tear up these nonsensical, makey-uppy rules, but we're all just a big melting pot, we're all the same, all cultures are equal, and we're all blank slate. Until that goes away, I don't know how we change this, Nick. I really don't.
No, absolutely. And if we were all the same, then what was the point of Ireland fighting a war against the British to leave? If we're all the same, you should have just stayed with the British then, shouldn't you? If we're all the same, nobody would dare say that in Ireland. Nobody, and rightly so. Nobody would say that. Now we've got amazing. We've only got one exceptional politician in the UK at the moment, sat in Parliament. He's an independent. He used to be part of Reform, but they kicked him out, and now he's independent. That's Rupert Lowe, MP.
I have a lot of time for Rupert, yeah.
Rupert Lowe is asked, I mean, he's got a great team around him, but they're asking some amazing questions in Parliament and using his parliamentary privilege to get the information off the government. If me and you try to get the information, we get blocked because we're nobodies. But our system is set up to always answer an MP and give them what they ask for. That's our system. Same as your system, probably. And he's been asking some great questions, and he's discovered some stuff. So this is some of the things he's discovered recently, but over the last year. The first thing is the sexual assault percentages from different countries. So an Afghan migrant in the UK is 22 times more likely to sexually assault someone than the average Brit. 22 times. It's 20 times for people from Syria, Eritrea. They're 20 times. French people are something like 1.6 times more likely to sexually assault someone in the UK than the average British person. He's got all these stats. They're all on social media now. So, and we look at him going, the government have never told us this. They fought him for about a year. No one wanted to give him any of it, but eventually got the information. New stats came out last week. In the UK, we have 1.9 million foreigners claiming benefits. So the idea that we need immigrants over here to do the job, well, no, we've got 1.9 on out of work benefits costing us a fortune. And the average immigrant into the country, by the time they retire, they've cost the country £500,000. Something like 2 or 3% of immigrants in the UK are actually net contributors to the Chancellor, to the Exchequer. 2 or 3%. Everybody else takes out more than they ever put in. We are almost bankrupt, the UK. How are your finances?
Well, you see, we have a different situation going on over here because they changed the business model completely. Now, on the one hand, you can say it was genius. On the other hand, there's a lot of downsides to the thing. Essentially, Ireland is a tax haven, really. It's a kind of a glorified tax haven. What I mean by that is that we have a very low corporation tax rate, 12.5%. And that was a deliberate strategy on behalf of the government because they thought, right, we're going to take a big hit because it was 40% one stage. So they scaled it back down to this in the hopes that it would kickstart things, companies would move here. Because we, as you know, were always a farming nation. We were an agrarian kind of country. We didn't have a lot of industry, heavy industry, all that sort of stuff. We were very land-based, farming-based, and they wanted to get away from that. And they did, because a lot of American multinationals started moving over to avail of this very low corporation tax rate. And then that really created the Celtic tiger, if you've ever heard of that. That was the kind of the late 90s, where Ireland just took off. We absolutely rocket to the moon stuff. And great days, I remember them well. Everything was just buzzing, and Ireland was alive. We had the young population to handle it. But what happened then was that they used up all the people we had, but they kept it going. So they kept just pumping this thing, and all these American companies mostly, and other corporations came here. Then we had to start importing people to fill the gaps because we didn't have enough people, and the people we had were all used up. Now, when they got all these massive corporations in, okay, the corporation tax was low, but being such a small country and a small economy and a small population, a little bit of some crumbs from the table of massive corporations like Apple and Pfizer and all these people, if you're just getting a few crumbs off them, well, that's massive for us, huge for us, you know. And so the business model went from being, let's get everybody into work and we'll get the tax off them and then they'll buy things and all that. It went to, listen, let's pander to these massive global corporations and we'll start charging, they'll come here for the cheap tax and they'll start running or routing a lot of their business through Ireland. Because a lot of businesses now isn't physical things, people going out and making something or doing something. A lot of it's online, a lot of it's virtual, a lot of it's electronic. So they kind of enticed all these massive corporations to locate here. And in exchange for some very sweet deals, you throw us a few billion every year in the form of tax, even though it's a tiny percentage of what you're doing. We're happy enough with that. And then you get to say to all your shareholders and all your people, look, our European headquarters is in Ireland. Everybody loves the Irish. Essentially, it sounds better than saying we're headquartered in the Cayman Islands. That doesn't sound quite as good. But if you say, no, we're based in Ireland, well, everybody loves the Irish. That's great. Sounds great.
And it also gave these companies access to the European Union.
Exactly. And that was the selling point. So it was everybody was winning. These corporations could run everything and route everything through Ireland, uh, which they can do these days. And they get access to the European market. And the Irish government are awash with money because they're all giving them what would be a tiny amount for them is a huge amount for our little government. So the reason they could go so crazy and do so many crazy things, Nick, is because they're getting all this essentially this funny money that isn't nuts and bolts stuff. It's crumbs from the table of these massive corporations, giving them just giving them a touch for helping them out, sort of thing, letting them be based here. So when you add that on to the industry that we do have a lot of pharmaceuticals and real industry, which is great. Put all that together, and our government has loads of money all of a sudden. So we're not in the same position as Britain economically, but with the different sizes of our economies, we can do different things. You have a lot more on your plate over there with the size you guys are.
Yeah. Right. So that's interesting that you've not got the financial problems that we've got here. But it sounds like your government sold you out for more tax dollars. Where our problem was we didn't sell out for tax dollars. We sold out to make it look like our economy was still successful and growing. And it was only growing because we imported more people who spent more money. So the pie kept growing, but the individuals in that pie all had less money. And we've been getting poorer decade upon decade. But the government will always announce our economy grew last year. The economy might have grown last year, but every single one of us is poorer this year than we were last year. We're poorer this decade than we were 2 decades ago, 3 decades ago. We're actually running a Ponzi scheme in the UK.
Yeah, it's I think what they call, and I'm no economist. I'm like yourself. I do have a big interest in these things, and I know kind of a layman's take on things, and it's what they kind of call economic activity. Great, sounds great. But what economic activity often means is somebody arrives from the Congo with nothing but the shirt on their back, and then basically the government then gives them 200 quid. And then that person goes to Tesco or Lidl or Aldi or any of these places and they buy stuff with it. And then they need shoes. So the government gives them the more money and they go buy a pair of shoes with it. Now that's all economic activity, but nothing has been created there. Essentially, you've imported somebody who has to eat, needs shoes and needs a jacket or a coat, and but they don't have any money for it. So the government take money off us and give it to them, and then they go and buy these things. And that's economic activity. But it's nonsense because nothing has been created there. It's a Ponzi scheme, as you rightly said.
No, absolutely. Right, let's end back on the knife crime epidemic that we're both facing. I'm pretty sure if we asked people in both our countries, would you rather be slightly poorer and have the country you used to remember safer, more unified, more, together, a sense of community? I reckon the vast majority of people would pick that over being slightly richer with diversity. Diversity is our strength. I think that's the question. I think that's the thing governments need to aim for now is the happiness of their population. Because I think we've all realized now more money, if there is such thing as more money, and more stuff doesn't make us happy. Because in my country, everybody is fed up, everybody's depressed. In my country, something like 25% of all women, adult women in my country, are on antidepressants. About 10% of men are on antidepressants. Whatever they're doing is not working, is it?
No, Ireland, as far as I'm concerned, it used to be a country that had an economy. We're now an economy that has a country. And I think the vast majority of people, certainly my age group and who have seen both sides of the coin, we want our country back. You know, we understand an economy is very, very important, it's the backbone of how it all works. But an economy is, you don't want to live in an economy. It's like saying, I don't want to live in an industrial estate. I know we need them, they're important, but I don't want to live in one. And that's what we have become now. Everything is the economy, everything, everything, everything. And everything in society is subservient to the economy. And I think that's a bad blend. I think it's a bad way to run things because, as you said, people are less happy. They're less happy. We don't want to live in an industrial estate. We want to live in a town, in a village, in a suburb with real people where they have communal things going on. Community is important and people are friendly and people are happier. And we've lost that, Nick. They've sold us out. They've gone for the money. And now it's all about the money and only the money.
Absolutely. I mean, look at the UK. Almost 50% of our kids grow up in a family with no father. 5,000 men every year kill themselves in the UK. Our prisons are overflowing with men who were raised in single parent households. And it's like, is this the country? Is this the society we want to create? It's everything. And talk about public services, nothing works in my country. Absolutely nothing works. It's all falling down. It's crumbling away. My country is it's we're in deep trouble. We're being hit from all sides. But again, like I said to you before, I can see the end of the tunnel. I can see light at the end of the tunnel. Things are changing now, and hopefully it will continue. Final words from you, Derek.
Well, look, I'm delighted you see light at the end of the tunnel, and I'd like to say the same myself. But we don't have. You've got some things going for you over there that we don't have. You've got the likes of Rupert Lowe there, doing amazing work, and I have a lot of time for Rupert and what he's doing. You've got various reformers in the mix with Vance and various other things. So you kind of you're a bit ahead of us there. We don't have that yet. But we did have a presidential election, as you know, and then the government got a real good kicking there, and they're nervous and they should be. So maybe we can get on the right track there. If we could just get some sane people, with some common sense people into the mix who were not just in the pocket of these massive global corporations and the big money people, and in our case, the EU, at least you've got out from under that yoke, then maybe we could get back to some sort of an Ireland that would be pleasant, a pleasant place to live, a pleasant place to raise kids and have kids, a property market that functions, which we don't have. And I really pine for those days, and I hope we can get back to that kind of Ireland, because that's the Ireland I was born into, Nick, and that's the Ireland I grew up in and spent half my life in, and it's sadly missed. It's sadly missed, and I desperately hope we can find some way to get that Ireland back.
Yeah, man, I hope the UK can do exactly the same thing because we've lost so much. We remember the days, and that's not us with rose tinted spectacles going, wasn't everything great? No, everything wasn't great, but they were better than they are now. And we're going backwards now. We're not going forwards anymore. Derek, as always, thank you so much for coming on. And for those who are not following you, please go into the description of the video. Your links will be there. Make sure you follow Derek's channels. Cheers, Derek, for coming on.
Nick, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for having me, and I hope to talk to you in the not too distant future.
See you later.